YouTube Ozzico and the Goat House is back after Week 14's action in the NFL. Here with my takeaways from all the games Thursday through Sunday. Still have that Monday game left. We'll be talking live on Twitter during that like we do every game. We have news, rumors, updates on Twitter as well. It's on your screen. There's also a link pinned in the comments. Check it out. There's also links down there for our sponsors. You guys know the drill. Code GOAT, GLD Shop, Liquid IV. But yeah, do this video every single Monday, just kind of going over my key points, takeaways from each game here. We have full NFL coverage. We have a couple off-season videos that are out there right now. Recent one covering the free agent quarterbacks, so check that out. Recent mock draft as well. We got you guys. Raiders and Rams played on Thursday night. That was an interesting one, the ending at least. Raiders had control pretty much all game. They had control all game, but it did feel like the Rams, because they had 3 points for so long, it felt like they had more than three. It felt like they were in the game more than the score showed. I think that's due to, Cam Akers' fumble. I think that's a big one, actually. They were on the move there. Baker came in. He was looking pretty good. But, yeah, the Raiders' mistake was, getting field goals instead of touchdowns, but not really. I wasn't a fan of, not only the execution, but the play calling, just like the philosophy there as the game was going on. I think McDaniels changed his game plan, which you have to do. You have to be able to adjust on the fly, but I think he did it the wrong way, like based on how the game was going. I think you underestimated the Rams a little bit. I think in Baker Mayfield, I think they saw they had a lead. They were off to a pretty good start and like, all right, we're going to win this game, so let's just run the football, which they are very good at running the football. Weren't as dominant in this game. Effective for sure, but not as dominant. And they kind of settled for field goals at times. 3rd and 5, they're going to run the ball. All right, kick the field goal. Carr only threw it, 20 or so times, and he didn't complete a lot of them. They had a perfect ball to Devontae Adams early, but other than that, wasn't super accurate on them. He had that turnover in the red zone. I know he stepped. There was pressure. He got hit, I suppose, as he threw it, but he stepped up into that pressure. Nobody made him throw that. That was just bad on Derek Carr. And then he ends the game with an interception too, but it was going to be tough to win that game anyways at that point. But yeah, I wasn't a fan of what McDaniels was doing there, kind of parking the bus a little bit. Just you got to throw the ball more. You got to understand that you got to put teams away. So they did not do that. And the Rams, Baker Mayfield, I'm not going to make any take on Baker's future or what he is. We're not going to sit here and say he's actually good. Look at that. He's actually really good. Like, we're not going to sit here and do that. We're going to wait and see. But for a guy to, what he did is pretty ridiculous. 2 days before that was claimed. Probably didn't get to LA actually to the next day. So probably only a day. Didn't start this game, gets thrown in there, second drive, and for him to be able to do what he did in this game, not just the last couple of drives, I thought he moved the ball well. I thought the timing on his throws were very solid. I thought he was smart with the ball the whole game. But to go 98 yards in 2 minutes, there are quarterbacks that just simply cannot do that. They cannot find ways to win. No matter the talent around them. And look at, Baker had Akers who was fumbling, the receivers he has. They made some plays. Skoranek made some plays in the final drive, as well. Tutu Atwell made some plays. Van Jefferson made some plays. But there are quarterbacks that people just give passes to and excuses to when they have those types of receivers. And for him to orchestrate that last drive, pretty ridiculous, and a perfect ball to end it on that touchdown as well. Pass interference, I agree with. That ball would not have been intercepted if there wasn't interference. You can see it after watching the replay, so definitely agree with that. Tillery made a bad decision to help the Rams out as well. It's kind of a soft call, but it also disrupted the clock, the time, all those things, so I understand it. But then the Rams execute, so it was pretty cool to see Baker, in that moment there. Raiders, and Patrick Graham taking some heat for running man coverage, mainly the single high. Probably should have another safety back there, but I don't mind the man coverage. You see the Rams got a quarterback that just got there. Make him make tight throws. Man coverage, usually you trust your guys to be in the area. You're not going to think your guys are going to get burned. So just trust your guys to make plays. They were in position to make plays. They just did not. Max Crosby made plays. The rest of the defense, not so much. I think everybody else on that defense is pretty much replaceable. Nate Hobbs is solid. Max Crosby, Nate Hobbs. Chandler Jones should be better than he is. Marek's a solid young safety. He's nowhere near where he looked last year, I thought. But I think pretty much everyone on the defense besides Crosby, and I guess we'll say Hobbs, pretty replaceable. So I think the players were put in position to execute, and they did not. So that's my take on that. Wild game, though. I'm excited to see Baker and the Rams going forward, I suppose. People thought the Raiders were back because they won a few straight, but they're most certainly not back. After losing a game like this, choking a game like this, McDaniels has not been good. Not been good for the Raiders. Next, Jets and Bills. Not a whole lot of action in this game. There's a lot of hits, a lot of big hits, specifically on Mike White, that poor guy. But he kept toughing it out and trying to play, coming back in the game. But they had the man throw it like 44 or so times. You got, if you're gonna throw the ball that much, you got to get more points up on the board. And they get a safety laid off a block punt. A touchdown there would have been huge, but not that they would have won the game or anything, but it would have been more in the game. But really what it comes down to is just too many mistakes for the Jets, and having that many reps and not scoring enough points. Kind of like last week, they scored more points, but they had opportunities to score more points to win the game. It was similar in different ways, a lot more defense in this game compared to last week. But turnovers and just not fully executing. He had a couple fumbles in there, obviously. Just a turnover battle. That is really plain and simple in this game. The Bills didn't do much offensively. They executed when they needed to. See Josh Allen with his legs. He didn't do a whole lot in the past game. See Knox get involved, but just executing when they needed to and winning the turnover battle, I guess executing off those turnovers. That's really the difference. Some key mistakes from the Jets. C.J. Mosley watched some Palomalu highlights the night before, apparently, with that one, which was pretty wild play. Pretty costly, too. Then we see Mike White kind of being beat up. Quinn Williams went down, came out of the game. So those things didn't help. But if you're going to throw the ball 40-plus times, you got to find ways to actually put the points up on the board. It's kind of similar to last week, like we said, but a little different at the same time. And then, Michael Carter fumbling. I think we already talked about this. Just that's what it is. The turnovers and not finding ways to score more points. But the turnovers kind of go into that. The Bills had a really good defensive outing. They created turnovers. They didn't do a whole lot offensively, but they executed and found ways when they needed to. That's pretty much this game. There really was not a whole lot else to it. Jets play good defense. They got to find ways on offense. That's just the same story there. Next game was Browns-Bengals. So this game early was pretty slow. It's like, all right. And the Browns are moving the ball. The Browns were actually moving the ball a little bit early. They weren't really getting points, but it felt like they were getting stops, and they're moving the ball a little bit. There was a point where early they brought in Brissett for a 4th and short, and they had him bomb it to the end zone. I don't know if I really mind that because Brissett's a guy that throughout his career, not just this year, they showed it last week though, but teams will put him in short yardage because he's pretty good, tough guy, physical guy on that sneak. So I can argue both sides of this, but to bring him in and have the Bengals think, that he's going to sneak it and then he bombs it to the end zone. It's one of those sneaky plays that I kind of like, and he was open. It was almost executed, and that would have been huge. It would have been an early touchdown. So that's the way I kind of like it. The way I don't like it is couple reasons. I'm thinking of more as I'm talking on reasons why you could maybe not like it. If sneaking, it's a higher percentage. So if you're going to bring him in to sneak at the price, QB sneak, it's a higher percentage play than that. Number 2, it wasn't fully executed, and then that kind of goes back to you have a quarterback that most of the world believes, and you got to believe that can actually execute that throw. I mean, you traded a lot for him. You believe that he can do it. I think we all believe Deshaun Watson can hit that throw, even if he's rusty or not. So why not just have the guy that you think can make the throw? So I almost could really argue both sides on that one. It's an interesting one. You got to be sneaky and bold at times, though, so I don't really mind it. But at the same time, I'm not really a big Stefanski guy. I kind of been saying that. I didn't like him in Minnesota too much. I was surprised he got a head coaching job. It was good the first year. We've seen that a lot from new head coaches and teams kind of figure out the system. But I don't know if Stefanski, it almost feels like he doesn't know what's going on. Like he doesn't really have a plan. It's just there's some games where it's like there's not too much enough focus on the run. It's just kind of random games, and it's really not based off the matchup on if they're focused on the run or the pass. So a little bit all over the place still, and just 10 points isn't enough. Watson's still trying to knock off the rust. He did have a bad interception earlier in this game, but I thought he got a little bit going towards the end. So maybe, just maybe a little bit of promise moving forward these next few games for Watson and the Browns. I thought he was playing pretty well towards the end of this game. They still only scored 10 points, but they had an opportunity to get some points from the board late. Threw a ball to Amari Cooper. It was a little high. He only got fingertips on it. I thought he could have caught that. I don't know. Maybe, that's me. I thought he could have caught that. And next play is a jump ball to Donovan Peoples-Jones, who was having a productive day. So let's go to that guy. He's a big body guy, but he tries to catch a jump ball with his body. He's jumping up at the ball like this. There's some weird things that just really rub me the wrong way. That really get to me that I should never see from NFL players, and that's something that I should not see from an NFL receiver. Like, how is he not high pointing that ball with his hands face up, straight up? I should just never see that. He had a productive day, and you see he was very mad at himself after that play, so he knows. So I thought Watson was picking it up. Teammates didn't really help him a whole lot at the end, but got to find ways, got to execute throughout the whole game. You got to knock that rust off a little earlier, so we're not going to sit here and just blame receivers. Just one specific instance, I thought a guy should have handled a little better. I really shouldn't see that from the NFL. But the point of that was from NFL receivers. But the point of that was I thought Watson was picking up a little bit at the end. So maybe some things going forward. Haven't been through with Stefanski. I thought the Browns defense did enough. Of course, the Bengals had some big plays. Mixon kind of getting loose. That was crucial. 40-yard play. That flea flicker to Irwin. So a little bit of a meltdown there from the Browns. But the defense was kind of holding it down. The offense just needed to execute a little bit more. So one of those situations where you can't have offense, defense, same page. There's a lot of teams like that over the history of the NFL, and sometimes it's confusing. But the Bengals, early in this game, there wasn't much action. Then all of a sudden, Tyler Boyd's out of the game. T. Higgins is out of the game. Jamar Chase is making plays, but at one point you're thinking, man, the Bengals got hit hard with those two injuries there. Are the Browns going to win because of that? At one point you're thinking that, but the Bengals, figured some things out. They've been doing that recently. They kind of been adjusting on the fly, doing some good things there. That's why you got to trust Zach Taylor. People were actually calling for him to be fired earlier in the year. Pretty funny, but they got the job done. It wasn't super pretty offensively, but again, did have some guys go down. I wish P. Ryan would have got more action. He's been so crucial to them the last few weeks. So I don't think he got enough touches, but Mixon got going. He had a good day, so not to take anything away from him. I just thought P. Ryan should have got more touches. So another win for the Bengals. They have not been able to beat the Browns. Specifically, they've struggled with teams with a really good pass rusher, and teams that run zone coverage, and they kind of got over that a little bit. Again, wasn't the best outing offensively, but they definitely got the job done, especially given they were missing some guys there. Defensively, they were fantastic. So to hold the Browns at 10 points, and keep them alive, it was big time. I thought, Logan Wilson was everywhere. The whole defense as a whole. Hendrickson was playing through an injury, which is insane, broken wrist, but he's gonna miss some time, a little bit of time now, so that's pretty tough. Cam Taylor-Britt, the rookie corner, I thought was pretty solid in this game as well. Bengals defense had a really good outing there. So the Browns, let's see if they start to get better. Watch starts to get better. Something we're all looking at here. Texans Cowboys. The Cowboys may be a little fortunate to come away with a win on this one. It was a pretty wild game. It was kind of back and forth, and the Texans had a 3-point lead at different score points, at different totals there. They had a 3-point lead for a bit in this game here and there. And, it was just a matter of the Texans getting in the end zone at the end. They get that clutch turnover. It was Dak did get hit, so it didn't end up being it looked really bad live. I didn't think he got hit, but still not great, obviously, putting the ball in harm's way there. And the Texans had control of this game. One point you thought they scored, thought Chris Moore got in, did not. And then I don't mind going for it there. You could kick a field, and the Cowboys end up scoring anyways, but you don't know that at the point there. Kick a field goal, go up 26-20. So you make it so the Cowboys can't kick a field goal. But I don't really, so normally it probably team would get ripped. But the Texans, one win, go out there and put the game away. I don't mind that at all. They just couldn't execute. Cowboys defense clutched up, stepped up big time there. So credit to them for sure. And then they went down there and scored. So they maybe a little fortunate to come away with the win. They're not like 100%. They got lucky. They should have lost the game. Maybe some people may argue that. I wish they would have ran the ball a little bit more. I kind of on that about teams a lot this year. I don't need teams to be run first and run way more than they pass. Not at all. But if you know your opponent, the Texans cannot stop the run. The Cowboys are very good with the run. It felt like Pollard continued to make big plays. Zeke was running well, and they're passing way more than they're running when they really could just win the game running the football. So know your opponent, know the situation. Almost acting like they were down big. I know they were losing for majority of this game probably, but sometimes teams pass because of that, but you're only down 3. You're definitely in this game. You're the better team. You got to know the game plan again, that you're dominant running the ball. They can't stop the run. So maybe if they would have divided that up, the passes runs a little bit more. Usually they're pretty good at it. So it was a tough one. The Cowboys are one of those teams they're a very good football team, but could definitely slip up at any time. Now there are, I was going to say a lot of teams, but there's not a lot of great teams, to be honest. There are some teams like that in the NFL. The Cowboys could be the poster child of that. I mean, how many great teams are there? I think you put the Eagles up there, the Cowboys up there, the Chiefs, the Bills. You want to call the Bengals great? Sure. The Vikings offense is great, not their defense. 49ers, even without their quarterback. You get the point. A lot of those teams, sure, they can do some of the similar things, but I think the Cowboys might be that team that's like, they can beat anybody. They can go and dominate another top team, but they also can slip up big time at any time. And they kind of slipped up in this game. Luckily, they found a way to win in the end. That's what matters there. Turnovers. It was a sloppy game, a lot of turnovers. The Cowboys actually had 3. The Texans had 2, if I'm not mistaken. So Texans got to find a way to win that one, but it's not the end of the world because they are, kind of in the driver's seat for the first overall pick. Vikings and Lions. The Lions continue to roll, scoring 34 on the Vikings here. It was definitely a weird game. Going into this game, follow us on Twitter. I wanted to switch my pick to the Lions. But I did not. We're on the app, obviously, to locking. I did not get that in time, so that was unfortunate. But because I woke up and saw Darisaw was out for the Vikings. I thought he has been out, but I thought he would come back, and I was thinking maybe do I switch? I hate switching, but then Harrison Smith and Garrett Bradbury ended up being out as well. But Harrison Smith was a weird one because he was out all week from practice from an illness, but you kind of got feeling that maybe he'd play, but all of a sudden it was a neck injury, so that was tough. But I don't know if that's necessarily why they lost. I think it was just kind of a strange game. But what I like about the Lions here is, they execute. They executed in the big moments. The big moments, whether it was... I focus on the red zone, actually, a little bit, or scoring before the red zone, maybe we could say, for the Lions, because the Vikings defense is not good, but the defense kind of been making clutch plays, specifically in the red zone. The Lions didn't allow them to make those clutch plays, and they scored when they're in the red zone, but their first 2 scores actually came before the red zone. They were actually shots down the field. So understand your opponent, knowing when to take those shots. I actually love those play calls. I think they were going straight to, taking those shots both those times. Understand the Vikings are thin at corner. Harrison Smith's out. Let's take those shots. It's easier to score on this team from here than it is in the red zone. So I actually like that a lot, the execution there, the play calling, and they executed in the red zone as well. Made some plays on defense as well. I know the Vikings kind of shot themselves in the foot, but it was a very strange game. Like I said, I picked the Vikings originally. Going into the game, I felt like, if you follow us on Twitter, I felt like the Lions were going to win, but I did not think it was going to go down the way it went down. Like if you had told me Kirk Cousins he had a pretty damn good game, throws for 425. Justin Jefferson has 223. He has a good game as well. They actually robbed him of more yards and a touchdown. Not that really affected the game a whole lot. Would have been more time on the board, I guess. But if you had told me those things would have happened, so they probably would win the game. And also, kind of what went down in this game, the Vikings, for some weird reason, called a running back pass at the 3-yard line and fumbled it. So I haven't seen them call anything like that this year. They were moving the ball just fine. The Lions were kind of in the backfield whenever whenever they hand the ball off, so that's really not the time to call that play. So that was pretty costly. I've been loving Kevin O'Connell this year, but that was stupid. It was just stupid, and that was a pretty big swing in the game. This game could have been a lot different if it wasn't for that. And the Lions fake a punt from their own 26. The ball's on Dan Campbell, and they go way down there, basically end up scoring because of it. I don't really like that call. I said this on Twitter. People weren't happy with me with saying that. I guess people just go about the outcome. But when you're up by 7 points and you fake a punt from your own 26, I know it worked out, and it was a big reason the Lions won this game. I think that play combined with the stupid Cook quarterback pass fumble before he could try to pass it, or while he was trying to get the ball out, I think those two plays were the different. If those two plays went the other way, I think the Vikings win the game. I actually do. Even though the Lions executed, they deserve the credit. They're rolling. But fake punt from your own 26, it worked out, helped them win the game. If you don't get it, which most teams usually don't, from their own 26, you're just blowing the lead. It's just a bad situation. So that, no matter the team, no matter what the situation is, I don't really like going for the fake punt on the 20-year own 26. I don't love it. It worked out for the Lions in this case. Penei Sewell gets a catch at the end. That was pretty cool. But yeah, a lot of offense in this one. It was weird. It was a little slow with points early, but you can see there was still a lot of offense. It was a weird game. Like I said, it was kind of a weird game. But I like the Lions' play calling. I like their execution. Again, I like taking those shots. Those shots in those moments, they were just so smart there. Scored before the red zone early in this game, and they executed the red zone a little bit later. Defense made some clutch plays as well. Lions defense definitely better than where it was earlier in the year. The Vikings did get a lot of yards. So did Lions. Got a ton of yards. But, Lions continue to roll. They stay alive in the NFC. Vikings defense definitely a problem. I've been saying that since like week 2 probably. Defense is definitely a problem for them. Not really worried about their offense. They moved the ball more than how many points they scored. That's never great, but I do think it was a little fluky. Again, they're not going to have Dalvin Cook throw the ball from the 3-yard line. Just a stupid mistake there. Hawkinson had a bad, costly drop. They gave him a fake punt. So defense does show the Vikings defense. So that definitely was not fluky, but I think some other things in there were a little fluky for the Vikings part. So nothing I'm really worried about with the offensive side there. Lions been super impressive, though. They continue to roll. Jaguars and Titans. Wild game on this one, too. 36-22, a very strange score. But Titans dropped 3 straight. I know they're pretty damn beat up in key spots. A lot of teams are beat up, though. So we can't make excuses for one team, but they do need to get healthier. But early in this game, it felt like they were going to be fine. Like Derrick Henry was doing what he does, running all over the Jaguars. They couldn't stop him. He had almost 100 yards out of the first quarter. I mean, it looked like not only the Titans were going to win this game. I know it was very early, but it almost looked like it could be an ass beating. For the Jags to kind of flip that, that's tough to do. Like to get out of that. And Trevor Lawrence had a hell of a game. I mean, the throws this guy makes, there's some longtime vets that can't make some of those throws, and some vets, I should say, obviously, but you see the flashes. Everyone sees he can make these throws. I know he has bad moments, but you see what he can become. But not only that, but in this situation, like again, the Titans are starting off strong. They have a tough defense. They're going to take the run away from a team, so Lawrence to kind of get out of that. I know some turnovers help. The Jags defense definitely created turnovers and won the turnover. That was a big story of this game. They won the turnover battle. The Titans were a little sloppy, usually take care of the ball. So give the Jags credit on defense, and they set up Trevor Lawrence as well. But to kind of, where the way the game started, the Titans controlling the ground, controlling the clock, controlling the game, to get out of that while the run is taken away and make big-time plays, I think it says a lot about Trevor Lawrence. So this is one of his better games, made some ridiculous throws. Evan Engram had a really good game. I thought Zay Jones played well as well. They just made big-time plays, and it's tough to see the Titans lose 3 in a row there, but the Jags might be coming. Just to think, though, that's kind of the tough part here. The Jags blew so many of their losses. Like they had wins, but they ended up with losses. Like they would be winning this division right now, maybe, and they could still come back and win it. So it seems like a battle between the Titans and the Jags right now. Can the Titans hold on? But the Jaguars made more plays. Derrick Henry started off on fire, ended up fumbling that one big hit. That was ridiculous. I don't know how the ball didn't go out of bounds either. So that was a big moment in this game as well. But the Jaguars won the turnover battle. That was big. But I'm very much impressed with Trevor Lawrence here in this game. Not only some of the wild plays he was making, but what was, like I explained already, like kind of this quarterback just can't do that. Like everything has to be going so perfectly, and the weapons have to be so good and so perfect, and the offensive line's got to be so perfect. And there's good quarterbacks, just find ways, and you kind of can start to see it from Trevor Lawrence. And he's going to be a good quarterback. I know that he's going to be more than a good quarterback. Shouldn't be a surprise because he was a first overall, not only was a first overall pick for a reason, but was known as one of the better quarterback prospects of all time for a reason. So it really shouldn't be a shocker. So that was a big time game from him. Just again, weird to see the Titans drop 3 straight. Not playing the best football right now. They are a little beat up. They got the Jaguars kind of on their tail a little bit here. Eagles and Giants. Eagles once again dominated. Kind of another statement game here recently. They had a bunch of statement games early, and they were the best team in football through a big, big stretch. But we see that all the time. Like, what can teams do as later in the year as they're game planning for them? And it's just so impressive to see the Eagles come out here and do this. I think we get to that Texans game, the Commanders game. One ended up being a loss, the Commanders game. You start to think like, all right, our team's starting to figure them out. We know it's still a really good team, but is this where they're not going to be as good as earlier in the year? And then then all of a sudden you get the Titans game, which was last week, and the Giants game in New York. Very impressive. Very impressive. They look better than ever. It's more impressive that they're doing this now compared to what they were doing in weeks 2. They had an impressive statement game. This is way more impressive at the crunch time of the season. So this game felt over early. Just over early, kind of similar to the Titans game last week. I thought maybe the Giants can make it close. They did not. But just the execution, winning in multiple ways. Hurts on the ground, Hurts through the air. Miles Sanders on the ground. A.J. Brown making big plays. Devontae Smith making big plays. They're missing Goddard right now. He makes big plays. The defense, the interiors, getting pressure. The edge getting pressure. Cornerbacks making big time plays. So they have multiple ways they can win. They have multiple players that can step up. Hurts. This was a big game for me for Hurts. Just showing that how much he's improved. And it's people always look for like arm talent or like the wild throws, like incredible, or like the crazy runs and breaking the tackles. And that's great, obviously, the talent. But that talent's been there. When Jalen Hurts came in, no one was going, he doesn't have a strong arm. He can't throw the ball downfield. He can't run. Like he can't break tackles. He can't outrun somebody. Nobody was saying that. We knew he can do those things. Just putting it together and more just up here being smart, reading the field, understanding the pressure, where it's coming from, when you have to get the ball out, when you have to move, timing, reading defenses. And that's why some quarterbacks that have all the talent in the world can't figure it out, because it's very, 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 very difficult to one day just bam, like all of a sudden I can do all those things. I got awareness all of a sudden. I can read defenses all of a sudden. I can, I made the timing better. Like some guys just can't figure out that point, what age they are. Like if they would have already figured it out, in college. But Hurts figured something out this just going into this year, and especially right now. There was a throw, there's several throws throughout the years, throughout this game, but there was a throw, I want to say second, I could be wrong, second quarter, but it was a third down, and it was just a pure timing throw, to the sideline to convert a big time third down. Just plays like that, just huge for Jalen Hurts. So kind of a rare moment of what he improved and how much he improved. The talent was always in there. We knew that. We knew he had arm talent. We knew he could run. But just to have something click like that, very impressive. So this was a big game again. I thought the Eagles' biggest statement games of this year. People will disagree. People will talk about early in the year. I don't really care what you're doing early. You got to win. obviously you need to win, but it's not really going to say anything about the team in the long run. I think the Titans game, the Giants game, the last 2 games, I think were the biggest wins for the Eagles this year, biggest statement wins. So very much impressed with them at a pretty good time of the year. Let's see if they can keep rolling. The Giants, like I've been saying, even when they were winning games and why people couldn't fully buy into the Giants, of course they've been a lot better than people expected. But I've been saying they're pretty promising for the future. I said that going into the year. I'm excited about the Giants. Not this year, maybe next year. I still am for sure. But why we were a little hesitant to say the Giants are actually as good as their record is because I've been saying they rely on some things. They rely on clutch turnovers. They rely on these crazy clutch plays. They rely on Saquon Barkley going bonkers. And as those things haven't really been happening as much, they've been losing. When they go play a good team that doesn't allow those things to happen, like the clutch crazy turnovers, the plays that just don't happen often. The Eagles aren't going to allow that to happen. The Giants can't figure it out. They can't even stay in the game. So that's kind of the issue with the Giants. They rely on too many specific things there. So they're not quite there yet. They're still a decent team. They're tough to play against. They can make clutch plays at any time. They have some really good players. They have a good coaching staff. So they're not that free win they used to be, but again, they do rely on some things, and it's been shown a little bit what we meant by that, even when they are winning. Next game, Ravens and Steelers. We knew this would be pretty close. 2-point game. The Ravens end up pulling it off. Kenny Pickett goes down pretty early in this game. Trubisky has to come in. Right when Trubisky comes in, he's actually making some impressive throws, and they get down the field, and it looks pretty good. But then all of a sudden it kind of flipped a little bit. He ended up throwing 3 interceptions. He threw the first one was right to his former teammate Roquan Smith. As they were moving, he was having a good drive. He was slinging the ball and making some good throws, but then threw it right to Roquan. So that was the turning point, I think, for the Steelers offense. And Trubisky, he only missed 8 throws, but 3 of them were interceptions. That'll do it. That'll do it. So it's just, they're gonna need Kenny Pickett back in there. Kenny Pickett was getting better. Wasn't great at all, but was getting better. So that was pretty tough. It's just crazy how many times I had to try to actually convince people that Trubisky was not a good quarterback. It's been quite a few years there. Not this year, really. Even though in the offseason there were people who are like, oh, Trubisky, this team got a lot better going from Big Ben to Trubisky. I'm like, well, what do you say? What are you saying right now? So it still was kind of happening a little bit, but it's pretty crazy. But he, give him credit in that Bucs game earlier in the year. He was making some good throws when he came in this game, but hopefully Pickett could come back soon. But the Ravens get the job done there. But at the same time, I know the Steelers lost Pickett early in this game, then kind of later in this game, the Ravens lost Huntley. And they're down to their 3rd-string quarterback who's just called up, Anthony Brown, who struggled with Oregon. I mean, we've seen, maybe a little off topic, but we see Bo Nix, who was a big-time struggler, go to Oregon and look a million times better than a guy like Anthony Brown. So wasn't thrilled about Anthony Brown, I suppose. So at that moment, and it was still somewhat of a close game, I'm thinking, oh, God, the Steelers are going to come back and win this one because of that right there. But Trubisky was making turnovers. The Ravens kind of held on there. They're able to run the ball pretty well. J.K. Dobbins comes back, and he has a pretty damn good day. Steelers, look at last year, look at early this year. They really struggled to stop the run. They're bad stopping the run. Then all of a sudden they've been picking up a little bit statistically, and they're getting better. But I still wonder if they weren't as good as the stats showed. And then you got to stack the box against the Ravens, whether it's Huntley, it's Anthony Brown. They have running backs, J.K. Dobbins back. You stack the box. You're not worried about deep downfield. So for them to let the Ravens run that well, not great. I do still think you can run on the Steelers. That might be the game plan there. Don't let their pass rush be as much of a factor. So the Ravens, pretty good game plan, I suppose. I mean, it's not like they had crazy offense. They scored 16 points, but I thought pretty good game planning. Steelers, I wasn't thrilled with the play calling for them either. I know Trubisky didn't make plays, but opposite of that, he threw the ball to the wrong team. But they put him in a tough situation. I know they're playing from down, but the game was close. They were very much in the game. I know the run game wasn't getting going that much, but you got to give it a chance, kind of get it going. You rather, abandon the run game, not give it a chance to get going, than you'd rather not do that. You'd rather have Trubisky throw the ball as many times as he did, which was too much probably. I know at some point he kind of had to, but so I'm not really thrilled about that. Their quarterback did go down, so that kind of throws them off a little bit, I suppose. But that's a huge game right here. Steelers were starting to heat up, starting to sneak back in there. Ravens, even though they've been winning for the most part, they still win. They've had some disappointing moments, and people were counting them out in a game like this, I suppose, even though everyone knew it could go either way. It was going to be close. So it's a pretty massive game here. Pretty massive game for both teams. The Ravens pull it out. Steelers got the Panthers next week. That could be an interesting game. Chiefs and Broncos. I mean, this game felt over like instantly. It's 27-0. Chiefs are dominating. Jet McKinnon is dominating. He had himself a really good game as a receiving back. Mahomes has that ridiculous little throw to him. I mean, just insane. The way he's escaping pressure. Mahomes did some insane things in this game, but he also was a big time assist on the Broncos coming back. So that's the tough part there. But Willie Gay made it. They put him off the edge. I mean, that play was ridiculous. The bat that ball and catch it. I mean, ridiculously athletic play. Kind of instinctive as well. I haven't been thrilled about him as a linebacker. The angles he takes, the way he whiffs, misses tackles. We knew he's a freak athlete, but it doesn't really show up when he's playing like off-ball linebacker. Definitely not going to base things off one play, but I almost go like half serious. Like, are we sure he shouldn't be playing like off the edge where he can get more of his athleticism there? Weird. It's not like he sacked the quarterback there, but that was like a TJ Watt type play there. We see him coming off the edge, reading the quarterback, when he's going to release the ball, when to jump up, when to make that freaky play, and then go and bring it back was insane as well. So that was interesting. But yeah, then Mahomes starts throwing picks. There was some impressive interceptions. Josie Jewell had 2. Patrick Surtain had 1. So those were some wild interceptions to some good plays. And this was probably the Broncos' best game offensively. I mean, Russ was probably his best game. The run game kind of got taken away just by default because they were down by so much. So they didn't have much of a run game to go along with that. Maybe best offensive performance, but it's valid why they were down. They were playing from behind. But Russ was throwing pretty well. He was running, escaping the pocket pretty damn well. Judy had maybe his best game yet. He had 3 touchdowns, monster game, over 70 yards. Maybe Hackett, it was solid from him maybe. So it's just tough that you can't pull it out. But at the same time, they were down 27-0. You played the Chiefs, so it's tough to say that they should have won anything like that. It's just tough when you finally have that good offensive outing. And, the Chiefs did score on defense once. Russ it was a freaky play. Russ does have to get the ball up a little bit more, but, so maybe some flashes there from the Broncos. Still can't pull it out. It was a tough one. Defense let McKinnon go a little too wild there, obviously. Yeah, it's tough. Mahomes had those interceptions were costly. It brought the Broncos back. It really did. So he makes some insane plays that nobody else can make in the league, but has some of those moments. There obviously. So they almost blew it, but they hold on there in the end. They're able to, that last drive, they put the game away as well, running the clock, so some good things from the Broncos there, I suppose, but getting down 27-0 ain't it for obviously. And that'll do it. That'll do it for this one. If they didn't start that bad, they would have won the game. But why were they able to get the offense going? I guess that's the question we're all wondering. Why were they able to get the offense going? The Chiefs kind of like, all right, we're up 27-0. Sometimes that happens, but it was pretty damn early, so we can't really. So I guess we'll wait and see. The Broncos get some offense. Hopefully Russ is okay. That was pretty scary as well. They're able to still move the ball ripping there. So, I guess it's a little bit of a mystery. Why were they able to? Well, you could say because Russ played better. Receivers played better. Offensive line played better. I could say things like that. But what was it specifically? We'll see if the Broncos could have some more offense going forward. It's not really the big thing everyone's looking for. Broncos season's obviously done, but Chiefs, if they slip up like that against some good teams, they will lose. Saw it last week. Kelsey had a major fumble. They lost, mainly a big reason because of it there, but they end up pulling off, win the game there. Bucks and Niners, 35-7. Yeah, I was pretty confident the Niners winning this game. I wasn't really expecting to go down like this. I guess it didn't really have to be this crazy. But it was. The Niners dominated this game. Obviously, the officiating wasn't great in this game. They definitely were on the Niners' side, But at the same time, it didn't decide the game. The Niners completely outplayed the Buccaneers. But yeah, there were some calls that did not go the Buccaneers' way in this one. Multiple, maybe you could say more than multiple. So it could have made the game a little bit closer, but the 49ers were just better. They just outplayed them. They gave them problems with their defense, obviously. Created some turnovers down the stretch, but they were executing on offense. Brock Purdy, extremely impressive, obviously. Very impressive. Shanahan just looking like a beast right now, obviously. But McCaffrey tore up the Bucs. Obviously, Ayuk was solid. Sounds like Debo avoided that major injury, so that's fantastic. 49ers just really good football team overall. Really, really good football team. You could see it early. You could see it even when they were losing. I think they were losing in kind of like fluky ways earlier in the year, and they were missing a lot of players. But yeah, even halfway through the year, I was picking them to come out of the NFC. It's a little tough without Jimmy Garoppolo, but Brock Purdy is playing very, very well, and this team is so good, so well coached. They're very capable of doing that still. So impressed with the 49ers. Buccaneers, they've been a bad team recently. I mean, there's a lot of people picking the Buccaneers in this game. I think you're remembering what happened at the end of that Saints game. Like what happened at the end was pretty ridiculous. Brady, it was ridiculous, but you got to remember the entire games. Other games they've been playing. They've been playing pretty bad football. They can't really move the ball much, and now you're going against the best defense in football. So it was a tough one. I mean, Brady threw over 50 times, and you only score 7 points. That's pretty tough. That's pretty rough. So you got to find more ways to score points. They really aren't finding that right now. Seems like when they have success, it's at the end of game, 2-minute drill, no huddle, when they actually could do those things. So, they weren't able to run the ball in this game because they were down by so much so early. 49ers just looked really, really good in this game. That's just really a lot better than the Buccaneers. That's just kind of what it came down to. The Panthers are starting to creep up on the Buccaneers a little bit. NFC South been a little bit more up for grabs. It was massive that the Bucs clutched up and won that Saints game. That was brutal by the Saints to lose that one. But 49ers, very impressive team, obviously, so well coached. Panthers and Seahawks. The Panthers pull it off. The upset 30-24. I was feeling the Panthers in this one, why I picked them. The run game against Seahawks, weaker run defense. Obviously, the Panthers play some pretty tough defense, too. J.C. Horn was outstanding. That's a legit corner right there, possibly on his way to being elite. But, yeah, he was fantastic in a game like this, making big plays there. The Panthers, the way the Panthers started was fantastic. Controlling the clock, controlling the ground, controlling the points, the score. Get up 17-0 pretty early. There was one drive. Was it the first drive? Yeah, they kind of settled for a field goal there. They get an interception on Geno Smith. They get 2 interceptions early. They could have done a little better job executing, actually getting points or touchdowns instead of field goals, but can't really complain too much. They're up 17-0 early. But it did feel like they, because the Seahawks were very much in this game, and it felt like the Panthers were dominating them, though. Like the Panthers this game probably should have been over when they were up 17-0. So they could, you've got a nitpick here. They could do a little better job putting teams away when they should. Things are going their way. They're outplaying the team. But they do end up doing that, really. So in an overall impressive outing from the Carolina Panthers. I think, again, if I had to nitpick a negative here, they ran the ball a lot and they were very effective, but there was times where they would kind of go away from it a little bit. They go for it on fourth near the end zone. They get it. Foreman gets it easy. And then they just pass 4 straight times, putting the game in Darnold's hands there, which Darnold did his job. He executed. He was pretty good with his legs. There was times where he should have ran, instead of trying to force a ball. Marshall had a ridiculous catch where Darnold forced him into traffic. I thought it was going to be picked, but he had a ridiculous catch through his legs. Don't know how that never touched the ground. Darnold didn't play great, but he got the job done, obviously, in this game like this. The run game was just ridiculous. But there's sometimes where they oddly went away from the run game when they could have put the game away, controlled more clock, got more points, all of the above. But, Seahawks they were on a roll at some point during the year where they look like one of the better NFC teams in football. I don't want to say come back down to earth because they're still a lot better than what we thought, but they are kind of coming back down to earth. They're not nearly as good of a football team as they were during that stretch. Defense is struggling a bit, especially on the ground. they were out physical. The Panthers were a lot tougher than the Seahawks. I thought that was pretty clear in this game, like a game like this. So, Geno, still can make those explosive plays, throws, has the weapons. Didn't help that DK was playing hurt, but not really the excuse. But yeah, it had those bad interceptions as well. Can't have those happen. The start was big for the Seahawks in this game. He got down so much. Panthers were able to continue to run the ball there. But Panthers, they're coming for that NFC South. Very, very impressive there, how they're able to turn it around. I think they're gonna have the run's gonna have to work, which it works a lot of the time. If it's forced to the Panthers have to win with the pass, and it's forced to on Darnold's shoulders as more of a game plan starts to come out, I think it's gonna be very tough for him. I really do. But they look like a well-coached team right now. They're physical. They're winning on both sides of the ball. Impressive for sure. And then the Sunday night game, which I didn't really go as I thought it would. I mean, you got just a interesting matchup here where, well, the Dolphins are usually really good because of their offense, and the offense is really good against every week except when they played some really, really good defenses. The Chargers defense has struggled a bit this year. They also run a lot of man coverage, also can't stop the run. So things should go the Dolphins' way. Derwin James also out, Teron Armstead back in. So the Dolphins should win this game. They should find a way to win this game, and they did not. They were in this game. They really shouldn't have been in this game. The Chargers completely dominated this game. It felt like way more than the score showed. So that's kind of a knock on the Chargers, though. Like, you got to put these teams away. There's been games they lost this year where things went their way early in the game. They started off very well, and they kind of just can't put it away there. Very early, I don't really like the decision to go for it on fourth down. It's not one of those situations where, like, we need a touchdown here, take the points. You don't really know how the game's going to go, take the damn points. But I also don't love, like, how many straight plays of throwing the ball at or just behind the line of scrimmage. Those were play calls, not Herbert's fault. Let Herbert go to work maybe. Herbert maybe should just change the damn play and, I'm going to put, forget the coach's play call. Sometimes you got to do that. I don't love the play calls there in the beginning. But, yeah, the Chargers should find ways to score more points there. I guess it starts with that first drive. I guess put the team away because you're deserving of putting the team away. You outplayed them. But, yeah, Dolphins, it was a tough one. Tough one for Tua. Tough one for McDaniel. I mean, we saw last week they only ran the ball 8 times. It's looking like that's an issue. It's looking like he does not want to run the football. And it's weird coming from the 49ers tree there. So maybe we should pump the brakes on Mike McDaniel. A likable guy. He's helped turn the Dolphins around a bit. He's going to get more out of the pass game, obviously. But you don't need to be a run-first team. You don't need to run the ball this many times, 30 times. You don't need to do that. But you have to know how to not only add the run in there, but incorporate. You know how to add it. There's a specific way to get the run game going. And early in this game, he didn't run the ball at all. And so you got to know your opponent too. The Chargers are so bad stopping the run. If you can, Herbert's really good. He's got big Mike Williams, who was fantastic in this game. Keenan Allen was fantastic. Herbert was fantastic. It's over. They can move the ball and score at any given time. It's still an explosive offense because they have explosive players. They can't stop the run. You have very capable running backs. Run the goddamn ball. He starts to realize, all right, I better run the ball, but he's going to come out there and run it, when they're in the first time they ran it, backed up towards their own end zone. First down, like they know they're going to, predictable moments. He was only kind of giving it a chance on first down. And there was times when they started running a little bit more, and there was times they were getting yards. Even that Wilson fumble, that wild play where Tyreek scored, absolutely wild play. Like, I know Wilson fumbled, but the run worked. There was a hole, got yards. It showed that the run could work. So they kind of went away from it a little bit again, and they're realizing, hey, somehow we're still in this game. So went back to running it on first down for those 2 yards and going away from it. You gotta be smarter when you run the ball, how to kind of get it going, give it a chance. You got to start the game running the ball. Know your opponent. I got to keep saying that. So, bad outing 2 weeks in a row. Not only people were talking about from Tua, he ain't completed a lot of passes, he's a little off, but Mike McDaniel, I think it starts there. So bad outing, and you start to get a little concerned. Is he too stubborn? Is he gonna get stuck in his ways? And when coaches do that, even if they're good with their own ways, their own game, they get figured out, and it's why we see it. We see it so much. Like first-year head coaches, they win Rookie of the Year. They're really good for most of the first year, and they get figured out. Mike McDaniel's been really, really good, really good for most this year. But are they starting to get figured out? Because it is getting pretty predictable. It's getting obvious. He's kind of just stuck in his own ways, being a little stubborn. So I'm not making a statement like, yes, he's not a good coach. He's going to continue to do this. We're not going to sit here and do that. But we also can't sit here and say and base everything off of the games that they won and say he's a great coach. So very likable guy, but got to be better. Got to be better for sure. I think it's a big reason why they lost. Not just, I think that's number one. Number two is Tua has to hit those throws. But and the defense did allow some big, long drives, a lot of clock, I suppose. But they did hold them to 23. The Chargers were capable of scoring a lot more. The defense held them a little bit more there. We had a very, very bad roughing the passer call in this game. I kind of went on a rant about why that was wrong on Twitter. It didn't really end. That's not why the Dolphins lost or anything like that. So we're not going to focus on that that much there. But Dolphins, maybe they're not that good. At times it was like they're pretty damn good. But I think they need to play a really bad defense that is going to let them, that they can throw on. The Chargers are better pass defense than they are run defense. So that's kind of what they need there. So it's tough. They're starting to, kind of get into crunch time. It's like, is this team going to survive it and not get into playoffs? So it's tough. The Chargers, that's a major win, major must win. They got the job done. They're staying alive there in the AFC. Maybe catch the Dolphins. That's a massive game right there. It's an absolutely massive game. So big time for the Chargers there. Still not thrilled with the Chargers coaching. Don't love the play calling, situational stuff. I don't mind being a gambler and going for it on fourth down. Just don't know when to start the game. They've done it to start the game a lot. You don't know when you don't. I understand if it's like, there's certain situations where it's okay to start the game, but get points up on the board. You don't know the rest of the game. You don't know what's going to happen. It's not a must. We got to score a touchdown to win this game. Like, you're not in one of those situations. So take the points there. And there's times where it worked out and it's a good decision to go for it. Sometimes it's a good decision to go for it and they don't get it. But I still think it's a good decision to go for it. But they got to clean that up a little bit. Still a question is, do they need staff change over there? Even though they just won this game, it's still a little bit of a question. But as a must win, and they did it. It was a massive one for the Chargers there. They probably should control it a little bit more, though. They shouldn't. The Dolphins really shouldn't have been in this game. But that wraps it up with our recap video that we're here with every Monday. We have weekly content, power rankings, weekly picks, score predictions, a lot more. Some off-season videos rolling out. Go over to our channel, check those out. Like, subscribe, turn notifications on while you're there. Be much appreciated. Also, much appreciated for watching this video. That's going to do it. Goodbye.